Special good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the morning briefing here on Caffeine TV and NoFilter.net. Jeff DeForest, along with one Mike Lubitz, and should be a day of celebration, Lubie. A giant day of celebration. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Are you aware of this? I mean, we actually have live action going on right now in Major League Baseball. Official regular season action taking place. South Korea, the Dodgers and the Padres, and pull up a chair and stay a while. 2-1, bottom of the fifth inning. I'm going to look at my scoreboard here. The Padres are leading the Dodgers 2-1. That's it. Dodgers are bust. All of that money. Can you believe it? Ohtani and Yamamoto. And they signed everybody from Japan. I think they got Sadaharu in some kind of a transaction. Did they have to dig him up? I want to say Sadaharu dead. Anyway, the Dodgers loaded up in the offseason. They are 350 to 1, 3.5 to 1, essentially 7 to 2 win the World Series this year. We know that can be a dicey proposition because a lot of strange things can happen, including fucking Arizona in the World Series just a year ago. Who would have thunk that? They were 150 to 1 before the playoffs even started, and still managed to make their way into the World Series and gave it a competitive go before falling to the Texas Rangers. But it's all underway right now. Shohei Ohtani will not go the entire season, Lubie, without getting a hit. I've already cashed a prop bet. He is right now, as we speak, he's 1 for 2. He's hitting 500 as a Dodger. Can you believe this? Lighting up the National League after making the transition from the Los Angeles Angels. And so baseball is underway. I'm assuming that's taking place in South Korea, not North Korea, although there was a note that made you think for a second maybe Kim Jong-un was going to throw out the ceremonial first pitch because there was a bomb scare, supposedly a bomb threat aimed at Ohtani. That was investigated by the people at the stadium, and sure enough, it turned out to be nothing, and the game's underway. It's about halfway through. What time would that be on the West Coast? People had to tune in at like 2:30 in the morning to catch the opening day for the Dodgers. What do you think about that? This whole, I understand it's business, and it's a worldwide affair. What do you think about having opening day for a major American sport? This is tradition. This is America's game. This was once the national pastime, Lubie. Why is opening day taking place in another country? I know that's become a tradition in Major League Baseball. How do you feel about that, my friend?
I forgot about it. I was like, opening day, isn't it the end of March, beginning of April? But I forget they do this ridiculous, what is it, a series? And then they come back and play more spring training. And then the opening day, I forgot that they do this. Yeah, I don't know. Look, it's work. They made baseball a worldwide sport. So good for them. The problem is it's not big in its own country. So maybe they should focus on America more because America doesn't give a shit about baseball right now.
We're following it here. It's interesting. Live betting action early in the morning like this can be a very dangerous commodity for a couple of degenerate fuckheads like you and me. Although you're not as involved in it as I am, but I wish I had laid money on this ball game. What kind of odds were you getting here? Over-under's 8.5. That's looking a little dicey. You're getting plus 158 on the Padres in this ball game, and you had to lay 190 to win 100 on the Los Angeles Dodgers, who sent Glasnow to the mound. Glasnow is kind of an interesting proposition, acquired in the offseason, and yet Glass might be the key, that first syllable in his last name, because he hasn't really been able to get out there and maintain it through the course of an entire season. And that may be a suspect thing about the Dodgers pitching staff that has me thinking I'm skipping right by that line at 350. Plus 350 to win the World Series and going right to the next team, which how do you not consider the Atlanta Braves to be the favorite to win it all this year when you look at their team? They didn't have to go out there and add 32 different guys. They didn't have to spend $700 million on Ohtani. They already had a lineup that had, 4 or 5 guys that had 30 home runs last year?
Oh, yeah.
Incredible. And reasonably good pitching and enough to make you think that if Acuna, there it is. Should that be at the top of the eye chart for any sports fan? Not a big giant E. The other day I was joking around. I was leaving a doctor's office, and there was an eye chart down the hallway, and I said, "Hey, see, I can see that E. I don't need any glasses. What are you talking about?" But at the top of every sports fan's eye chart, Lubie, should be a giant IF, if. And that would be the preface for just about every thought, every theory that you might have about the game. But you would have to say that if Acuna stays healthy for the majority of the season, the Braves are going to be a very tough out, even for a team as loaded for bear as the Los Angeles Dodgers. Anyway, they're a bunch of losers right now. Fifth inning of their opening game, and they're down to the Padres, who had to go through a transition after they had ponied up a ton of money last year to go nowhere, and they kind of got out of that. They made a few moves to shore up their lineup a little bit, but in general, they unloaded everybody that was high-priced. Soto, Hadar, all kinds of different players that they had spent a pretty penny for in one attempt. A smaller market team. It's fair to say that San Diego is a smaller market team. People don't give a shit about anything in San Diego, do they? Except how beautiful the weather is. You have 80-year-old women sprinting on the beach with a surfboard. It's all about health and welfare in San Diego. They don't care about the Padres. I don't think they give a flying one about that team. They didn't care about the Chargers when they were there. They didn't show up for that. In fact, they really don't show up in L.A. because that is the one time you can always count on the visiting team having more fans in the stands than the home team does when you watch a game at SoFi Stadium there, and it involves the home team, Los Angeles Chargers, which is still a very difficult thing to put together. All right, so opening day is underway. The Dodgers are in action. They may be mathematically eliminated as soon as tomorrow. They lose these two games in this series, and it's weird. They go back. They really do resume spring training after this, after having played two regular season games. Kind of an interesting dynamic for Major League Baseball. You would assume that everybody was going to start somewhere around the same day, but not happening. Here we are at least a week away from the regular season opening day for most teams, and the Dodgers and the Padres are doing battle as we speak. The tournament got underway last night with the play-in games, and wow, I mean, I wish we had done this show after we had the professor on, our college basketball handicapper that we feature on some of our shows, and he's appeared with picks on this program. Hasn't actually physically appeared, but all over Colorado State last night.
Yes.
Saying that Virginia was one team that certainly did not belong in this tournament. Didn't even belong as a play-in team. So you had Colorado State out of the Mountain West, which many people feel got shafted in the seedings. And they had to play as a number 10 seed in a play-in game against Virginia last night, and they managed to wallop them by like 30 points. So that was money in the bank. Did you step up and bet a little money on the professor's recommendation in this game, Lubie?
I wish
that would have made it far more interesting than it otherwise was. I love a good bludgeoning, too. I mean, as Donald Trump would say, I love a good bloodbath in a sporting event, especially when the team I have money on is the one administering the punishment. And Colorado State, a mismatch against Virginia. I thought you told me, Lubie, and this was also something that you had gotten from the professor, a friend of ours who really does send it in and studies his stuff. And you're thinking those people have a huge advantage in the early rounds of the tournament. People that are actually college basketball fans.
Yep.
Can you fuck yourself by outthinking yourself? It doesn't seem like it, because the logic that was placed behind this wager by the professor to us yesterday in his little dissertation on the tournament was spot on. I mean, it couldn't have been any more pristine, any more clairvoyant. Colorado State, from a really tough conference that got fucked by the NCAA committee in terms of seedings, having two of their teams in play-in games, ends up just shellacking Virginia out of the ACC team that's, well, I thought they went away from that slow down, ridiculous crawling pace that they used to exhibit a few years ago, and they were very good, but at the same time, extremely boring to watch. What the hell were they doing? You can't milk the shot clock any further than these guys did, and then get off a horrible shot and end up with one of the lowest totals that you could even conceive of in a game of this nature. I think they ended up with like 42 points in the game, an horrendous display. I thought they went away from that style, but it seemed like every possession I saw, I didn't see the whole game, but I watched enough of it to put myself to sleep, actually. And every possession, Virginia's hanging on to the ball for like 29 seconds before they make a move to the basket. What is that? Was Dean Smith named honorary coach of Virginia? The only thing I think slower paced than that offense was the four corners. Well, there they go. They're going into the four corners. Still, to this day, the most hideous strategy ever designed by any coach, and should have made a certainty the exclusion of Dean Smith from any Hall of Fame distinction and or any honor as a coach of the year at any time, despite his brilliant one-loss record. The adage was absolutely true. The only guy that could hold Michael Jordan under 20 points was Dean Smith. How was he heralded as one of the great coaches of all time? He had every hamburger All-American. I mean, hamburger chains that weren't even invented yet. They were sending All-Americans to North Carolina, and Dean Smith is going, slow it down, kids. Slow it down. What the fuck? Unbelievable. But anyway, it gets underway. Wagner out of Staten Island beats Howard. The professor had a theory that these from the HBCU schools, they don't fare very well in the tournament for some reason. So Wagner getting 3 points, wins outright by 3. That game got really dicey, and you're screaming at the end because if you were back in Wagner, the only thing that could kill you in that game, where they were up 10, 15, even 20 at various junctures of the ball game, the only thing that could do you in would be overtime. And sure enough, in the last possession that Howard had, they get, I want to say, 3 shots at a three-pointer to tie the ball game and send it to OT.
3.
And end up missing them all badly. I mean, you talk about bricks, Louis. You needed a mason cart to hoist those kind of shots up there, but didn't work and dodged overtime. So if you had Wagner, which I was an advocate of in that ball game last night, I was going to go ahead and take the 3 points with Wagner. You felt a lot more comfortable. You could breathe that deep sigh of relief after all of those 3-pointers missed. Not even enough to win the game, but enough to screw you if you were laying 3 points, or getting 3 points with Wagner in the ball game last night. So that's all underway. Wagner gets a distinction of facing North Carolina. What are the odds in that one, Lubie? What do you think? Got to be a lot of points that you're getting if you're playing that game. 1 versus a 16, and Colorado State goes on as a 10 seed, so they're in a much more favorable spot, you would have to say, in terms of level of competition that they're going to have to face coming out of that play-in game. Here's a weird story, and you don't know what to believe anymore, and I honestly, as we speak, and this is a day later and 2 days after this incident supposedly took place, but you don't know what to believe on social media anymore. And I've gotten further confused because I was watching a lot of the action in the Miami Open, which is the tennis tournament that's underway right now. It's the follow-up part of the Sunshine Double. You have Indian Wells out in Palm Springs, always a great field, a representative field in that one. And Iga Swiatek. Did we figure out how to say her name yet? Does anybody know? I used to say Swiatek. Then it was Swiatek. Then our good friend Leslie Visser, Hall of Fame broadcaster, said, it's Swiatek. Now, I hear different people pronounce it. Have we figured out which is the correct pronunciation of Iga Swiatek? I'm going to go with. She's from Poland. I guess it makes sense. The Schwie, the Schwitz, whatever. It doesn't matter, though. She's great, and she seems to have regained her form. She wins Indian Wells. And in that tournament, Aryna Sabalenka, who is number 2 in the world, fell to a local favorite, Emma Navarro, I believe in the quarterfinals. So now she makes her way to Miami, hoping to resume her winning ways. Was the Australian Open champion now 2 years in a row, won a couple of Grand Slams on her resume at 25 years old. Sabalenka, a beast out there on the tennis court, and apparently a very lovely and likable young lady in all other aspects of life. But before the tournament starts, one of these things surfaces on social media that her boyfriend of 3 years, I believe, is a former Penguins hockey player. He had a cup of coffee with the Penguins, if you can consider 3 years and 144 games, a cup of coffee. Would you say that's a cup of coffee by NHL standards? 144 games is essentially a season and a half. So he's with the Penguins for 3 years, played in Russian hockey leagues and a lot of different European hockey. Was a coach right now with one of the teams in the Russian leagues. And a story surfaces that he had died suddenly on, what was this? What's today? Today's Wednesday? On Monday night. And he had died suddenly while in Miami with Aryna Sabalenka as she was getting ready for the tournament. And it was some kind of detached blood clot, whatever that may be, which doesn't sound like a very favorable condition to have. And at 42 years old, this guy checked out. Now the story intimates that it wasn't a blood clot, but that he had actually committed suicide and possibly jumped off the balcony of the hotel where I'm assuming he was staying with Aryna Sabalenka. Now, watching the tennis coverage yesterday, there was either no mention or scant little mention of this because Sabalenka is scheduled to play, I believe, either today or tomorrow in the tournament. In her first-round match, she had a bye in the first round, and who's she supposed to play? But her best friend in the world, in the tennis world, Paula Badosa, the lovely Paula Badosa, the Spanish player, who's been struggling with injuries. And she had a real interesting first-round matchup yesterday with the formerly suspended Simona Halep. Simona Halep, who at one time, I believe, had gone all the way to number 1 in the world. She was either number 1 or number 2. Remember, Brad Gilbert was working with her, and she was doing real well, achieving some terrific results. She was always a top player, Halep. Was suspended for 4 years by one of these European anti-doping organizations for use of some performance-enhancing drug. I don't remember the exact name of it. I'm not sure exactly what it does. It was one of these weird things like Sharapova had, where she was taking like a heart medication or something. But that suspension was lifted and reduced to 9 months, making her eligible to play immediately. So Halep was in the tournament. She plays Badosa in the first round, wins the first set. Badosa comes back, wins the next 2, and now is slated to play Sabalenka in the next round of the tournament. So you have the 2 good friends, but very little mention of whether this story is real. I'm assuming it is, right? Did this guy die or what? Konstantin Kostlov or something like that is his name. I forget his exact name. I wrote it down here somewhere. But nonetheless, is this guy dead or what? I mean, I hate to disparage the dead, but what's going on with the story? Can you believe everything that you read is the question.
He's dead. I mean, they're saying he's dead. This story sounds freaking weird.
Isn't that strange, right? I mean, and Sabalenka's playing. That's what struck me as being highly unusual. Now there are times, we've seen it where, we saw it with Brett Favre, right? Your father passes away the day of a Monday Night Football game. Guy goes out, has a great game, and says, well, my dad would have wanted me to play. I don't know how you feel about that, Lubie. I'm assuming that you would just go on living your life. I don't know. I mean, how long would you be in a period of grief? But this is a really weird one, especially if the guy committed suicide and jumped off.
While with her. Like,
the story is real then. Okay.
AP News has reported it. Belarusian hockey player dies at 42. Police are saying it's not foul play. He apparently committed suicide. But with her there. Like, I've never heard anything like this.
Who could go out and play tennis after that?
Look, I get it's your job, so I guess you just go through the motions. Especially,
I mean, you would be more zombified than Venus Williams was in her match yesterday, which you were right about Venus, although you were 12 years late to the party, Lubie. Years ago, Lubie and I were slated to go down to the Miami Open. We were going to go down there and have some fun. It's always a great event. I mean, I love going to these tennis tournaments. I play tennis still to this day, very badly, but nonetheless. I played a guy the other night, my friend Dr. Jerry. I have never seen a guy play worse at any sport ever at any time. And I still proudly walked away at 72 years old with the victory, thinking, wow, I got my game back together. It would have been more competitive if, sometimes your friend is late showing up, or whoever you're going to play, they're late. So now you take a couple of balls and you hit them, and then you walk to the other side and you hit them back. And you're thinking, this is the most useless exercise I've ever had in my life. But it was probably, that would have been more opposition than I got from my friend Dr. Jared in this event the other day. But I mean, you would have to think, what? I mean, how could this woman possibly concentrate to play tennis at a very high level against a former number 2 in the world, and Paula Badosa, who she happens to be, I mean, the tightest and closest to friends with, and she's going to go out there and play under these circumstances? Seems impossible, doesn't it, Lubie? I mean, are you waiting for a late withdrawal here? There's been no talk of it, and very little mention of the whole affair taking place on the Tennis Channel yesterday. They had hours and hours of coverage. You would have thought that this was one of the big stories. Did you see anything on SportsCenter about this? Or
no.
Nothing.
I've never heard of this. This is a weird enough story where you would think someone would talk about it. Like, it's a little weird that no one's discussed this.
My God, I mean, and has anybody heard from Sabalenka? I can't believe she's still going to be in the tournament there. But I started to think, well, maybe the guy isn't dead. No, sorry to say that he is, but because all accounts, the guy was a real good guy, very happy-go-lucky guy, and was having a perfectly good time with Arina Sabalenka, who, as I said, according to all sources, and even you can see this in some of the things that she does, a very playful, joyful, happy and happy-go-lucky individual. But weird story. So you're confirming this now via AP? You have Ian Rappaport. Is Schefter saying he's dead? What's going on?
Multiple places have said it. Police have discussed it. It's a real thing, and it's fucking weird.
Wow.
I don't understand it. I get it's a touchy thing to deal with on coverage, but I mean, she's actively in the tournament, and it happened while she was where they are doing the tournament. How do you not mention?
You slated to go. It happened right here in our hometown, Miami. We know strange things happen in Miami, but that is not only tragic and catastrophic, but extremely bizarre, especially since it originally was reported as a medical incident, and then it sounded like he literally just dove off a balcony of one of the local hotels here. This 42-year-old guy, a very strong, strapping guy who used to play in the NHL, just dives out of a building, and almost nothing is being said about it. And how could you possibly continue to proceed? I don't know how this woman is going to do it. So real curious to see, because I'm a big Sabalenka fan. I think she's fantastic. She straightened out some of her problems that she was having mentally with these collapses she was having in key moments, and has won a couple of Grand Slams. Seems to have her confidence, and is a terrific player. I mean, a lot of fun to watch. You want to see a woman that knocks the shit out of the ball. That's Arina Sabalenka. Had a little trouble with the yips with the second serve there for a while, but seems to have corrected that. And it would have been very exciting to see her play her friend, her good friend Paula Badosa. But there certainly is a very dark cloud hovering over that matchup, and maybe, to a certain extent over the tournament as well. All right, we have to get out of here. A lot of fun being with you. Do I have an update on that baseball game? Pull up a chair and stay a while. Once again, Vince Scully, man, paying tribute to the Vince. 2-1. Padres now in the seventh inning, Lubie, of a pitcher's duel here in South Korea. Too much stuff going on for one day. All right, a lot of fun being with you here today on the morning briefing. For Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. Thanks for tuning in on Caffeine TV, NoFilter.net, or various other platforms. We'll see you tomorrow with another edition of the morning briefing.